Remember when people thought that Bethesda was good? Or at least not bad and incompetent in general? That wasn't that long ago, may I remind you. It was before Starfield. People defended Bethesda for almost everything. The fanboys were there, the hype was real. Elder Scrolls Fallout 4, maybe not the best, but definitely not the worst. And then, and then Starfield came out. And that literally kind of killed Bethesda. Because keep in mind, Starfield should have honestly been a generational game. Because keep in mind, Starfield got 33 million players in its first month. Yes, it was on Game Pass, but still, 33 million players. That's actually the number that they gave. And I'm 100% sure Bethesda did not lie about that. They would not lie about that. That is a lot. Typically, companies nowadays are like, oh, look at that, we got 2 million players. Not even buyers, not even purchasers, not even actual money payers, but at least, 2 million players. But Starfield got 33 million. That is a huge number. And after that, Bethesda went up in flames. The incompetence level. Honestly, Starfield is a great reason why my channel even honestly exists. Because, man, the absolute hate against Starfield was just legendary. I still feel it, boys. You know me, I'm true to my heart. I still feel hate for Starfield every single day. How much of a disaster it was. A loading screen simulator, nothing good from any Bethesda game. Boring to level up, boring to use points, itemized item crafting turns out exists, but it's dull. Base building completely invalid. Story woke slop. And, well, exploration non-existent. Bethesda really released a game like that. Can you imagine that? It honestly, when you recount the factual stuff about Starfield, and the only moment where people were like, "Whoa, this is cool," in Starfield was when those 2 or 3 clips about sandwich dominoes were trending on Twitter, and that was like, "Whoa, physics!" That was the only positive thing that people found about Starfield, which was absolutely hilarious. And after that, well, you know the story. The Starfield fans are gone. The Bethesda fans in general are completely non-existential anymore. It is the craziest thing ever, honestly, if you ask me. That a company that had literally tens of millions of fans managed to lose pretty much all of them with just one game. Well, I should say a game, and the fact that they prove that they are incompetent even further than that, because it came out buggy, even though Microsoft delayed its launch by a year or two or something, and they fixed a lot of bugs, so it wasn't the 76 disaster. But even 76, see, when I played that game at launch, was not as bad as Starfield. It was bad, but at least it was. At least it had the, Fallout-ish spirit attached to it for some time period. But Starfield, no. That was just bad. And then the updates, the bug fixes. When Bethesda takes literally 3 months and they fix a grand equivalent of um 2 gameplay issues, maybe? If you're lucky, one of them is actually fixed or semi-fixed. And, there's like 10 lines of dialogue saying, oh, we also fixed this thing that no one even knew was a problem. But the big problem, now they're still there. People are sharing a clip that people figured out that, wait a minute, Starfield does this typical Bethesda garbage of traders actually having chests under them, and if you can get under the floor, you can just loot all of the NPC's inventory from them for free. Oh, that? Bethesda fixed. They fixed that in less than 24 hours. People, like 0.01% of players that were gonna use that because gold is in general useless in Starfield. Oh no, that Bethesda fixed it in less than 24 hours. Can't have that. Actual real bugs, no. And then came the DLC. Oh boy, Shattered Space. Emil Paglarino's grand magnus opus. Holy! It was so bad, Todd Howard literally removed his name from the franchise. This is the only Bethesda game in history where Todd Howard is not plastering his name all over it because it's so bad. And with Shattered Space, Bethesda proved that, hey, even if they're not using AI-generated slop, they still don't have it because the handcrafted stuff is as bad, if not, honestly, somehow worse than the AI stuff. And so people lost absolutely all hope for Bethesda as a company. And, I mean, that's a long intro, but boys, listen, there's gonna... But Todd Howard has been saying, oh, Shadow Drops are very cool, blah, blah, blah. So, there is supposed to be another DLC for Starfield. And I mean, we're getting it, boys. I can't wait.
The Starfield leaks and rumor mill are out of control this week, but for once I think they might actually be right. That's because some credible information here hints that the next Starfield DLC could arrive in weeks and not months. This brand new...
Hell yeah, I am so excited. By the way, look at this. We constantly meme that there's literally just one type of enemy in Starfield. It's a pirate or it's a human. The reality is there's actually like a bunch of these strange looking wacky wooey creatures. But the reality is you never want to encounter them because it's just sad. It's literally just sad.
Info comes from some new files over on the SteamDB website, which is basically a repository of updates for games on the Steam platform. Well, the Starfield repository on SteamDB as of a few days ago now has several new files, all having the term DLC in the file name.
Oh,
many
boy.
Starfield fans are pointing out that this is the standard procedure for when DLCs actually do get released, meaning that the next Starfield expansion might be closer than anyone expected. Whether you believe a shadow drop is coming or not, this is the most
My body is ready.
activity that we've seen around Starfield for months, and it shows that something big is coming, so let's break it all down in this video. Alright, so the SteamDB, as I mentioned recently, pushed out tons of new updated files just in the past few days, and this is the core of what Starfield fans are looking at right now, hoping for a new upcoming release. I've got several
Now, granted, who is he talking about when he says Starfield fans? I have no idea. Do they exist? Well, the answer would be no.
examples of those new DLC tag depots on screen, all linked to Starfield on Steam. You'll notice that they all have DLC in the title for the file name itself, and also several of these have...
By the way, this is going to be, dude, this is... You know how bad and stupid this DLC is going to be? Because technically this DLC is already the first DLC that we had. Because the first DLC was House Maroon, and the DLC roughly went like this. People for no reason are in a different part of space cut off, and now you go to them because reasons. This next DLC is supposed to be people who were cut off from you previously now come to you and stuff happens. It's the literal same thing, but in reverse. It's so stupid.
different languages in the file name too, which would suggest a larger release getting localized into those different languages. And just in case you're wondering, yes, these are the same kinds of entries that popped up on SteamDB before Starfield's previous DLC Shattered Space went live in September of last year. As you can see in these screenshots from the Shattered Space update again on the SteamDB website. These updates look very similar to the new ones that we're seeing now, and these previous updates actually were published on the same day that Shattered Space was released. So this is definitely the standard procedure for Bethesda DLCs, at least in terms of Steam updates. Now you may be wondering about creations, is this just a creations update and nothing more? Well, again, these updates are listed specifically as DLC, and typically creations aren't listed like this at all in Steam. Those files usually are held on either Microsoft or Bethesda servers, I believe. So while new creations may drop in whatever our Starfield update is next, they don't appear to be the focus of this next update, which clearly has DLC all over the file names. But now for the biggest question of all, whatever this new update is Bethesda about to drop this at the Game Awards next month?
Wait, can you understand even, is this footage like sped up, or is this normal? I mean, this is normal, but my brain is getting fried looking at this.
Now, the optimistic side of the Starfield community is saying yes right now. They can imagine Todd stepping out with that Starfield background behind him.
I don't think it's gonna happen. I think they are shadow dropping it. I think what they promised 2 DLCs, and if they don't deliver 2 DLCs, then Steam can, I think, legally refund this Starfield. But that's just me speculating because I don't remember these details. Maybe I'm wrong, but Todd Howard is not coming out on a stage and saying, "Yeah, Starfield's getting a new expansion, boys. It's gonna be great." No, no, no. Todd Howard's not doing that. Todd Howard already has completely removed his name from Starfield entirely, and he just wants to forget it even exists. It's not happening. If they actually do an announcement for the Starfield DLC, I will be honestly shocked, because yeah, I think they're just shadow dropping it, because Todd talked about this, that he really, really, really likes shadow drops, and I understand him. Whenever anything Bethesda related comes out now, people are just absolutely ripping it to shreds, because there is no trust in Bethesda, there's no love for Bethesda. So shadow dropping does sound better, because people are going to talk, but people are not going to be able to actually know is it good or bad, so they're just going to have to buy it. So that is the most efficient strategy they can use.
And shadow dropping the next Starfield DLC at the Game Awards on December 11th, less than 1 month from now. And that could happen for sure. I mean, shadow dropping major updates and even games is still in the Bethesda playbook. We saw that this year already with the Oblivion remaster dropping out of nowhere with tons of success. And that same success...
To be fair, you know what's my theory on that? Todd wanted the Oblivion remaster to fail, because the Oblivion remaster succeeding is kind of on the same tier of humiliation for Bethesda as Fallout New Vegas existing in general. It's the fact that the Oblivion remaster proves that modern day Bethesda is incompetent, that they cannot make good stuff. And previously, at least, Bethesda had the ability to say, "Oh, you don't actually want old stuff. It's not actually that good. You just remember it when you were a kid, and everything was more fun." Well, the Oblivion remaster comes out, and everyone loves it, and no one's saying anything bad about it. People are even ignoring for a huge part the fact that, well, it's actually poorly optimized and not really playable for a lot of people for a long time, and has a lot of technical issues. People even forgive and don't talk about that too much. I mean, it just proves that Todd is wrong about everything. That's painful.
This may have even pushed Bethesda to get this Starfield update out the door before 2026. Remember too that Todd Howard did commit to yearly DLC for Starfield, and so getting this new DLC drop potentially right at the final moment would be a big win for Bethesda, at least in terms of keeping their promises to fans and delivering on the content and updates that Starfield really needs in a timely manner.
Now, I honestly think this is more a legal thing, because again, they promised that before launch, and I'm pretty sure Steam's rules apply here. If Bethesda doesn't do this, then I can finally get my refund from Starfield. Yes, I bought the game. I played for 8 hours. It was abysmal. Oh boy. If I get my refund, oh boy, I'm going to be happy.
Now, the other possibility, of course, is that we don't get the shadow drop, but instead we see a trailer for the new Starfield DLC at the Game Awards with a release date probably in early 2026. This version of the release matches more closely what previous leaks have pointed to, that being a 2026 release for Starfield's DLC, coinciding with a PlayStation 5 release for Starfield, likely in the first quarter, sometime between January and March. Now, getting a new DLC trailer at the Game Awards, or even a bit of a deep dive into any new features, stories, or mechanics without the full shadow drop is obviously less exciting, but it may actually be a better play if Bethesda wants the best release possible. That is especially true if the game is coming to other platforms like PlayStation 5 or even Switch 2 in the future, which is an entirely new audience that has never played it before. Microsoft, as the game's publisher, no doubt wants those new players to have the best experience possible when they dive into Starfield for the first time. So having those few extra months to polish this update is probably the best thing that they can do for the overall health of the game. So we know the next DLC for Starfield is coming, and it's coming pretty quick. Whether it shadow drops at the Game Awards next month or we just get a trailer and then it comes a few weeks or months after that. But the next question is then what might we see in terms of DLC content or even new systems getting added to the game? Well, if you remember, Bethesda did release an anniversary video for Starfield just a few months ago, and inside a few quick frames of that video, we spotted the biggest hint of all, the phrase Terran Armada. Now, this was obviously included as a hint.
Yeah, we know that they're gonna be the next expansion. And it's gonna make no sense. It's gonna be a group of people coming back to old Earth, and then there's gonna be a conflict because reasons. I mean.
Towards the direction that the next expansion was taking. Whether this is the actual name of the DLC, maybe the name of a new faction, or a new major story arc, we don't really know. But breaking down the words in the title, we know the word Terran typically points back as a reference to the planet Earth. Then the word Armada tells you that we're talking about some type of organized military power. Putting those words together in Starfield, and you get the basic idea. Some type of major Earth force coming now to the settled systems with enough firepower to shake up the game's.
By the way, it's hilarious because it doesn't actually make any sense because Earth in Starfield is destroyed. So why aren't they calling themselves a... I mean, it does kind of make sense, but you get the idea.
Current factions. Now, the Starfield community really split into two camps when this new information was released. One group believed that we're about to meet a long-lost Terran fleet returning to the settled systems. The other theory leans more into the alternate realities aspect of Starfield, having to do with alternate dimensions and the Unity. In this theory, maybe an alternate Earth exists in another dimension and crosses over into the player's current universe through the Unity. Either one of these options could open the door for bigger ships, new faction storylines, and larger scale conflicts to go along with the Terran Armada theme. In terms of new content too, I did previously cover an earlier leak having to do with a space travel update coming to Starfield. A Reddit user digging through previous Steam updates found reference to a cruise mode, far travel, and some different encounter triggers in the Starfield data that could activate while you're actually moving between planets. None of this matches the current fast travel system, which players have criticized as lacking in immersion and being too much of a load screen driven system. This potential fast travel update leak points to
Yeah, by the way, how is this a leak? We got promised that, I'm pretty sure.
Something new and more ambitious that I think players have been asking for. Well, it's not surface to space travel mode like in No Man's Sky, for example. It does hit at a more hybrid model where players can set a course, walk around their ship, have a conversation with companions, check their gear or a quest log, or maybe even get pulled into random encounters while cruising through the stars. Fewer loading screens, of course, would be a huge quality of life update here as well. And this update, if it is real, would provide an actual sense of distance and immersive travel instead of just teleporting everywhere across the map over and over, one load screen at a time. What really ties this together is that an earlier version of the star map before the game's launch used a time-based travel system. Some people even spotted this different version of the star map during different pre-release demos and footage, but the feature vanished in the full release of the game. And seeing these new pieces return in the code does make you wonder if Bethesda is bringing back the original idea, but in a smarter, maybe more optional way. And if Terran Armada does...
I mean, saying smarter and Bethesda in the same sentence sounds kinda awkward in my opinion.
End up being a fleet-heavy expansion with larger ships or faction battles.
By the way, I love the idea. Absolutely love the idea of Starfield's next expansion being about space combat, the thing that people like the least about the game that they don't like in general. I think that's a great thing. Double down on the stuff that no one wants. Okay? Well, is this going to be a legitimate repeat of Shattered Space? Where Emil Pagliarino quadrupled down on everything that the fans said that they don't like about Starfield and said, we're gonna do everything you don't like again because you actually need to like this. Is that gonna happen again? Is this literally gonna be the exact same situation? Where we're just gonna get an update for a game that's performing poorly on things that no one wanted in the first place. I can't... please be that case, please.
that this type of travel system could really help tie things together. After all, you can't have epic space encounters if every fight starts with a loading screen. Ultimately, though, players have been trying to figure out why Bethesda has gone mostly silent since Shattered Space was released last year. We're talking months without any real updates or hype for the game. This has felt strange for a game that launched with big promises about ongoing support. Now, I think obviously the player reception.
Now, I have shown the SteamDB graph for Starfield many of the time. The reason why Bethesda does not care to actually promote Starfield or do anything is because when Shattered Space came out, again, I did the math. I forgot how much, but typically an expansion on your average game is gonna get like 30% of players to come back to up to 50. Okay, that's kind of average-ish. From 20-25 to up to 50%. That's average. Starfield got something like 1% of people playing the expansion. And keep in mind, that expansion was free for most people. Yes. That's why we're not getting any hype about Starfield. Because, I mean, Todd Howard needs to thank God that people don't actually calculate this stuff. Only I do. So the fact that like roughly 1% of people decided that they want to give Starfield another shot while it was most likely free for them, they didn't even have to pay, is one of the most humiliating, abysmal statistics I have ever seen in my life. What was it, 3%? In any case, it was ridiculously small. Like, when the expansion hit, no one even cared to hate Starfield. It was that bad.
To the Shattered Space DLC was not really what Bethesda expected, and it may have even caught the developer by surprise. I mean, Bethesda really needed to do more to actually capture their longtime RPG fan base in this newer franchise. And I think part of that recent relative quiet regarding Starfield is just Bethesda with their heads down, fully focused on creating the best update for the game possible. At least that's what we're hoping for. But there's also more to this. There was a voice actor strike recently, for example, that lasted almost a year, and Starfield does use a pretty large voice cast. And then there is the recent 180 by Microsoft when it comes to exclusives no longer being a thing for Xbox, and the Starfield team having to work towards no doubt releasing the game on PlayStation 5 to bring in even more money. Quiet periods from Bethesda tend to mean two things: heavy work behind the scenes or a shift in strategy. But with everything that has surfaced in the last month regarding Starfield, it looks like
I don't see any shifts in strategy again.
Both of these may have been happening at the same time. Microsoft definitely wants big results from Bethesda.
You know what's actually good about Starfield? I think I have found the only thing that I will say that it's kind of decent about Starfield, and it's the most minor thing, and you can see it here. Because I am a stealth character player, okay? I will always make stealth if possible. And this thing that actually, this is the best indicator I have seen in any game that actually shows when people forget that you're there if you're a stealth character and give up searching for you. Okay? We finally found the only thing... the only thing that because I'm not lying, by the way. I have had this discussion many, many times, and I honestly consider everything that Starfield has done a failure. From the combat to the exploration to the dialogue to the everything. I cannot say a single good thing about Starfield, except this is kind of nice, okay? It's not perfect, but at least this is nice, you know? The game's a negative 200 out of 100, but I mean, at least this is nice. We finally found something that I can actually say is good about Starfield. And the irony of that is that I'm probably one of like 3 people in the world that cares about this.
When it comes to this game. For one thing, we know that The Elder Scrolls 6 is likely still years away at this point. Fallout 5 is still probably in the design documentation stages. And so Bethesda really needs some solid single-player content getting released now. The Oblivion remaster helped a lot in 2025 for sure, but Starfield needs to be the game that hits it big next. We also know that Microsoft is not at all shy when it comes to laying off game developers. So this next Starfield update is keeping it real for...
Okay, well, fingers crossed that this is the update where Todd Howard finally gets the boot. Oh yeah, I mean this is definitely some very very amazing stuff. That was Hack the Minotaur, 10 out of 10. Bye.